You're going live now. It's only at 50%, so it's going to happen again.
Okay, I'll try to keep my eye on the mirror. Radhe Radhe, Dandavat Pranam. I'm going to have to give a moment for it to refresh. If it's not refreshing on mine, it's not refreshing on theirs. Radhe Radhe, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Oh my gosh. Please forgive us. They just kind of installed internet and we're still trying to get that working, and we've got, oh my gosh, it's not connecting. Are you there? Is everyone there? Hare Krishna? Hari Bol? Oh, alright. Radhe Sham, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, we're going to sing Jai Anilo Premadhana Karuna Prachur. I believe it's page 99. Dandavat Pranam, sorry about that. We lost connection. But I want to wait a moment. So, I will continue speaking what I was saying before. You see? Hare Krishna. Sorry about that. It does this thing where when 50% of your data has been used, it says 50% of your data has been used. We will cut you. And then when 10% is left, it cuts you off again. 10% is left. We will cut you. And then at 100% as well. And then it goes into overtime data. So please forgive us for this. Already so frustrating. Dandavat Pranam. So we're going now to call out in this bhajan, Jai Anilo Premadhana Karuna Prachur. It is the disappearance anniversary of Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj. And that is on page 99. Or whatever Jiva Pavana Prabhu posts in the comment section of the thread. So, I was telling that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Rai Ramananda, what is the greatest suffering in this world? And Rai Ramananda replied, I don't know of any greater suffering than that of the separation of Krishna's pure devotees, separation from the Vaishnavas. And although generally we sing Jai Anilo Premadhana during any disappearance day festival, really we are in a state of acute separation from our Gurudev at all moments, and from Srila Prabhupada, and from Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, and all of our Guru Varga. And whether we are remembering them in terms of their appearance or their disappearance, we're still in a state of separation from them. So technically, theoretically, this can always be sung or called out. But for the Vaishnavas, especially those who are deeply connected in that mood of separation, it can, I want to use this term, really throw them over the edge, meaning they can be weeping and crying, and it's difficult to bring them out of that. Even whenever there would be a mood of lamentation in any bhajan, our Srila Gurudev would always want to end it on a lighter note or a sweeter note. And we've heard from the Vaishnavas, I think it was our Srila Gurudev who said, you should never end in a sad note. And we have the example from the pastime of Rupa and Raghunath. Raghunath Das Goswami was reading Srila Rupa Goswami's Laghu Bhagavatamrita. There is the separation pastimes of the gopis for Krishna, and how they are feeling in such a deep, desperate state of separation. I don't want to go into it, but as he was reading it, he was weeping inconsolably. So much so that his tears were falling on the ink, and the ink was spreading. Rupa Goswami didn't know how to pull him out, so immediately he sat down, and by divine trance, he was witnessing some happier pastimes of the Lord, and he wrote down Dan Keli Komudi. And in there's the history of Mukta Charitra, the story of the pearls. And so then he showed that to Raghunath, and then Raghunath began to smile and laugh, and his heart became lighter and he was able to pull him out of that situation. No one wants to see anyone remaining in a state of desperate separation. The gopis are even trying to wake up Srimati Radhika by telling her the name of Krishna. Surely he's coming just now. Krishna, Krishna, like this. They don't want them to remain in such a situation, but anyhow, these feelings of separation occur. So on the disappearance day of any Vaishnava, then our Gurudev and Guru Varga would chant this bhajan, Jai Anilo Premadhana Karuna Prachur. Jai Anilo Premadhana Karuna Prachur. Jai Anilo Premadhana Karuna Prachur. Heno Prabhu Kotha Gela Acharya Thakur. Heno Prabhu Kotha Gela Acharya Thakur. Ahamuro Saruprupa Kaha Sanatan. Kahamuro Saruprupa Kaha Sanatan. Kaha Daso Raghunatho Patita Pavon. Kaha Daso Raghunatho Patita Pavon. Kaha Muro Bhato Juga Kaha Kaviraj. Kaha Muro Bhato Juga Kaha Kaviraj. Eko Kale Kotha Gela Gorano Toraj. Eko Kale Kotha Gela Gorano Toraj. Pashane Kutibo Matha Onole Poshibo. Pashane Kutibo Matha Onole Poshibo. Gauranga Gunero Nidhi Kotha Gele Pabo. Gauranga Gunero Nidhi Kotha Gele Pabo. Se Sab Sangiro Sange Je Koi Lo Vilas. Se Sab Sangiro Sange Je Koi Lo Vilas. Se Sangana Paya Kande Norotamo Das. se sangana paya kade narottama das je anilo prema dhana karuna prachur je anilo prema dhana karuna prachur hero prabhu kotha gela Gaur Govinda Thakur hero prabhu kotha gela Gaur Govinda Thakur oh hero prabhu kotha gela Gaur Govinda Thakur hero prabhu kotha gela Gaur Govinda Thakur oh prabhu hai 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 jaya Gaur Govinda Swami Guru Deva jai Gaur Govinda Swami Guru Deva jaya Gaur Govinda Swami Guru Deva jai Gaur Govinda Swami Guru Deva jaya Bhakti Siddhanta Srila Prabhupada jai Bhakti Siddhanta Srila Prabhupada jaya Bhakti Siddhanta Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Srila Prabhupada Prabhu hai 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 Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki jai Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki jai. Now we're going to call out to their goal, their aspiration, their everything. They are true Rupanuga Vaishnavas in every way and well versed in Rupanuga Tattva. Shri Rupa Manjari Pada, Se Mor Sampada, Se Mor Bhajana Pujan. Page 50 by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Oh, Sudevi, I have not prepared water for myself. Can you please bring some more? Bring some water. I think I have something on the bed there.
Fine, it's here. I have prepared.
Grazie. Gracias. Jai. Shri Rupa Manjari se moro prano dhano, se moro yabharano, se moro prano dhano, se mora bharano, se
Koro
छाया आहा प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद छाया नरोत्तम लोलिलो शरण नरोत्तम लोलिलो शरण नरोत्तम लोलिलो शरण नरोत्तम लोलिलो शरण श्री रूप मंजरी पद से मोर संपद से मोर भजन पूजन श्री रूप मंजरी पद से मोर संपद से मोर भजन पूजन से मोर जीवनेर जीवन से मोर जीवनेर जीवन रूप गोस्वामी प्रभु 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 हे 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 रूप 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 हे श्री रूप गोस्वामी पाद की जय। श्री सनातन गोस्वामी पाद की जय। श्री सद गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। Now we're going to call out to Sri Nityananda Prabhu in the tune of Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj, in the words of Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur, page 64. Dandavat Pranam Radhe Radhe. Jai Jai Nityananda Rohini Kumar. Dandavat Pranam Raghava Prabhu Hari Bolo. I feel blessed that you have shown your Hari Bolo here. We're just about to sing for Sri Nityananda Prabhu in the tune of your Guru Maharaj. So please bless us that some of his inspiration and enthusiasm may enter our hearts. It was by hearing that the Nityananda Prabhu Kirtans. Sudevi?
Yeah.
Can you just tell that really quick? About when you were just from when you were hearing Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj.
But I had read from him previously.
Yes. Just quickly.
Okay.
You have to sit close.
Dandavat Pranam, all Vaishnavas.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I had one really extraordinary book, The Beggar of Prem, The Embankment of Separation from Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. But after that, I had never seen or actually heard him. So one day I was in the house of my mother-in-law and I was chanting my mantras. And as I was chanting my mantras, she started playing some bhajans of somebody singing that I had never heard the likes of in my entire life. It was so powerful, so all-consuming that I couldn't chant my mantras and I couldn't think. I just got the chills and I was completely stunned and I was just listening and listening. So finally, when I was able to go and to speak to my mother-in-law, I said, "Who is this? Who is singing?" She goes, "Oh, do you like it?" And I said, "Yes, it's the most amazing thing I've ever heard." She said, "Oh, that's Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj." And it was when he was singing it was on Nityananda Trayodasi. And if you watch him in those kirtans, it's otherworldly, it's transcendental, it's something not of this plane. When he speaks Harikatha, his Vyasa would lift up, but when he was singing like this, he would just be in this mood where he would sing and then he would just, "God Haribol!" And everyone would scream and then he'd go back into the kirtan. And I just became enraptured, and it was since that moment, I just became almost absolutely obsessed with Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, because who can capture someone like that? Just immediately pull their heart, and I've never been released, thank goodness. So, is that all?
Yes,
okay.
Thank you. And it was because of her and her Sudevi's catching that. I was very dense, and I had met him previously, but Sudevi became crazy for him, nuts for him. And she was like, "Oh my God, you should hear this." And she would read from him and share it with me, and it was just amazing. And so gradually, over time, we developed more and more appreciation for him, and also by the mercy of our Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, he trained us, taught us how to honor Vaishnavas according to their levels, irrespective of whatever society or institution they may have been from. And so Srila Gurudev would also glorify Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And many of Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj's disciples had come to our Srila Gurudev for shelter and continued nourishment, for guidance and nourishment after the physical departure of their Gurudev from their vision. And so by being in the association of those devotees as well, like Raghava Prabhu, who has been very close to us all of these years, and so many others, we've also been able to, I'm going to say reminisce, not exactly reminisce, really dive deep into remembering the mercy, the compassion, the power, the beauty, the softness, the teachings, and the practices of Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, and how he would also relate with his disciples. So, Jiva Pavana Prabhu just posted a link to a YouTube video. If any of you leave this to go see that, then my seva is successful. Dandava Pranam Shashtika Didi. So, now we're going to sing Jai Jai Nityananda Rohini Kumar. Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, I don't know, that was my first impression of him from the time that I was being guided. Sudevi was guiding me to appreciate this Vaishnava. Before that, I didn't really have much understanding. But by her excitement and guidance, then I started becoming more and more crazy for him. And also by her inspiration and her excitement, I started becoming more and more crazy for Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada and so many of our acharyas, including our Srila Gurudev. So, yeah, that's why Gurudev told me, hold her little finger and don't let go. So now, Jai Jai Nityananda Rohini Kumar. First, Panchatattva Mahamantra. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Nityananda Rohini Kumar Jaya Jaya Nityananda Rohini Kumar Patita Udhar Lagi Dubahu Pasar Patita Udhar Lagi Dubahu Pasar Padagada Madhurama Madhura Yadho Bola Gada Gada Madhurama Madhura Yadho Bola Jare dekhe Tare preme dhori deya kola Jare dekhe Tare preme dhori deya kola Dagamagalochana bhu Raye nirantara Dagamagalochana bhu Raye nirantara Sonaro kamale jeno Piraye brahmaro Sonaro kamale jeno Piraye brahmaro Doyaro Thakur Nitai Par dukho jane Doyaro Thakur Nitai Par dukho jane Hari namer mala gathi Dilo jago jane Hari namer mala gathi Dilo jago jane Papi pashandi jato Korilo dolano Papi pashandi jato Korilo dolano জানে কইলা প্রেম বিতরণ আহারে গৌরাঙ্গ বলি পরে ভূমি তলে আহারে গৌরাঙ্গ বলি পরে ভূমি তলে শরীর ভিজিল নেতার নয়নের জলে শরীর ভিজিল নেতার নয়নের জলে বৃন্দাবন দাস মনে এই বিচারিল বৃন্দাবন দাস মনে এই বিচারিল ধরণী উপরে কিবা সুমেরু পরিল ধরণী উপরে কিবা সুমেরু পরিল জয় জয় নিত্যানন্দ রোহিণী কুমার জয় জয় নিত্যানন্দ রোহিণী কুমার পতিত উদ্ধার লাগি দুবাহু পসার পতিত উদ্ধার লাগি দুবাহু পসার জয় নিত্যানন্দ রাম 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 নিতাই হে 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 জয় নিতাই গৌরাঙ্গ নিতাই গৌরাঙ্গ নিতাই গৌরাঙ্গ জয় 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 নিতাই গৌরাঙ্গ पतित पावन श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम शचिनंदन गौर हरि की जय गौरांगेर दुतिपद जार धन संपद That is page 74 by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Gaurangero দ্যুতিপদ যার ধন সম্পদ গৌরাঙ্গের দ্যুতিপদ যার ধন সম্পদ সে জানে ভক্তি রস সার সে জানে ভক্তি রস সার গৌরাঙ্গের মধুর লীলা যার করণে প্রবেশিলা গৌরাঙ্গের মধুর লীলা যার করণে প্রবেশিলা হৃদয় নির্মল ভেলো তার হৃদয় নির্মল ভেলো তার যে গৌরাঙ্গের নাম লয় তার হয় প্রেমোদয় যে গৌরাঙ্গের নাম লয় তার হয় প্রেমোদয় তারে মুই যায় বলি হারি তারে মুই যায় বলি হারি গৌরাঙ্গ গুণেতে জুড়ে নিত্য লীলা তারে স্ফুরে গৌরাঙ্গ গুণেতে জুড়ে নিত্য লীলা তারে স্ফুরে সে জন ভক্তি অধিকারী সে জন ভক্তি অধিকারী গৌরাঙ্গের সঙ্গী গণে নিত্য সিদ্ধ করি মানে গৌরাঙ্গের সঙ্গী গণে নিত্য সিদ্ধ করি মানে সে যায় ব্রজেন্দ্র সুত সে জয় ব্রজেন্দ্র সুত শ্রী গৌর মণ্ডল ভূমি যে বা জানে চিন্তামণি শ্রী গৌর মণ্ডল ভূমি যে বা জানে চিন্তামণি তার হয় ব্রজ ভূমে বাস তার হয় ব্রজ ভূমে বাস ওর প্রেম রসার নবে সে তরঙ্গে যে বারুবে গৌর প্রেম রসার নবে সে তরঙ্গে যে বারুবে সে রাধা মাধব অন্তরঙ্গ রাধা মাধব অন্তরঙ্গ গৃহে বাবনেতে থাকে হা গৌরাঙ্গ বলে রাখে গৃহে বাবনেতে থাকে হা গৌরাঙ্গ বলে রাখে নরোত্তম মাগে তারো সঙ্গ নরোত্তম মাগে তারো সঙ্গ গৌরাঙ্গের দুটি পদ যার ধন সম্পদ গৌরাঙ্গের দুটি পদ যার ধন সম্পদ সে জানে ভক্তি রস সার 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 গৌর হে 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 জয় সচিনন্দন জয় গৌর হরি 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 प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम सचिनंदन गौर हरि की जय। Now we will call out for the mercy of Krishna. In the words of Srila Rupa Goswami, Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande, page 343. Sudevi, can you put the fan on? Thank you. Sorry. Just on low. Thanks. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Manasamadhukaram Arpaya Nija Pada Pankajamakarande. Manasamadhukaram Arpaya Nija Pada Pankajamakarande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Yadyapi samadhishu vidhirapi pashyati Natavanakhagram marichim Yadyapi samadhishu vidhirapi pashyati Natavanakhagram marichim Idamichhami nisham yatavachuta Tadapi kripaduta vichim Idamichhami nisham yatavachuta Tadapi kripaduta vichim Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Bhakti Rudanchati Yadyapi Madhava Na Tvai Mamati Namatri Bhakti Rudanchati Yadyapi Madhava Na Tvai Mamati Namatri Parameshwarata Tadapi Tavadhika Durghata Ghatana Vidhatri Parameshwarata Tadapi Tavadhika Durghata Ghatana Vidhatri O Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Ayam Abhilo Lataya Sanatan Kalita Bhuta Rasabharam Ayam Abhilo Lataya Sanatan Kalita Bhuta Rasabharam Vivasatu Nityamrihamrita Nindini Vindana Madhurimasaram Vivasatu Nityamrihamrita Nindini Vindana Madhurimasaram O Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Mana Manasa Madhukaramar Nijapada Pankaja Makarande Mana Manasa Madhukaram Arpaya Nijapada Pankaja Makarande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande O Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna He 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 Oh Krishna He 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 Shri Krishna Kanhaiya Lal Ki Jai. Now we will call for the mercy, the grace of Srimati Radhika, Shri where is it? Gaura Radhika Charana Padma Sakala Shreyera Sadma, page 102 by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. This also represents the mood of all of our Rupanuga Acharyas, including the ones who we will be speaking about today. রাধিকচরণ পদ্ম সকল শের সদম রাধিকচরণ পদ্ম সকল শ্রেয়ের সদম যতনে যে নাহি আরোধিল যতনে যে নাহি আরোধিল রাধা পদাঙ্কিত ধাম বৃন্দাবন যারো নাম রাধা পদাঙ্কিত ধাম বৃন্দাবন যারো নাম তাহা যে না আশ্রয় করিল তাহা যে না আশ্রয় করিল রাধিকা ভাব গম্ভীর চিত্ত যে বা মহাধীর রাধিক ভাব গম্ভীর চিত্ত যে বা মহাধীর গণ সঙ্গ না কইল জীবনে গণ সঙ্গ না কইল জীবনে কেমনে সে শ্যামানন্দ রস সিন্ধু স্নানানন্দ কেমনে সে শ্যামানন্দ রস সিন্ধু স্নানানন্দ লোভিবে বুঝো এক মনে লোভিবে বুঝো এক মনে লোভিবে বুঝো এক মনে লোভিবে বুঝো এক মনে রাধিকয়ুজল রসের আচার্য রাধিকয়ুজল রসের আচার্য রাধা মাধব শুধ প্রেম বিচার্য রাধা মাধব শুধ প্রেম বিচার্য যে ধরিল রাধা পদ পরম যতনে যে ধরিল রাধা পদ পরম যতনে সে পাইল কৃষ্ণ পদ অমূল্য রতনে সে পাইল কৃষ্ণ পদ অমূল্য রতনে রাধা পদ বিনা কভু কৃষ্ণ নাহি মিলে রাধা পদ বিনা কভু কৃষ্ণ নাহি মিলে রাধা রাধা শির কৃষ্ণ সর্ববেদ बोले राधा राधा शिर कृष्ण सर्ववेद बोले राधा राधा शिर कृष्ण सर्ववेद बोले राधा राधा शिर कृष्ण सर्ववेद बोले छोरत धन जन कालत्र सुतमित छोरत धन जन कालत्र सुतमित छोरत करम ज्ञानो छोरत करम ज्ञानो राधा पद pado pankaja madhurata sevana bhakati vinoda paramano bhakati vinoda paramano bhakati vinoda paramano bhakati vinoda paramano Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Radhe hai Krishna hai Radhe hai Krishna hai Radhe hai Krishna hai Radhe hai Krishna hai वृषभानुनंदिनी श्रीमती राधा ठाकुर रानी की जय श्री विनोद बिहारी जी की जय Now we will call out to Radha and Krishna combined in the form of Shri Harinam Prabhu, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. It's interesting, wasn't it? Radha and Krishna combined, and it seems like I'm going to say Shri Sachinandan Gaura Hari. But Sachinandan Gaura Hari is Radha and Krishna combined. If Radha and Krishna combined, their meeting and separation is non-different from Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and their meeting and separation is non-different from Sri Sachinandan Gaura Hari, then Sri Sachinandan Gaura Hari is non-different from Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Sarvatra prachar hoibe mor naam, he says, my name will be preached in every town and village of this world. His name is also Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, now we will call out Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaura. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Bolo. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Radhe Radhe Govinda, Govinda Radhe, 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 Govinda Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Gurudev, 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 Gurudev. Jaya Gaura Govinda Swami Gurudeva, Gaura Govinda Swami Gurudeva, Gaura Govinda Swami Gurudeva, Gaura Govinda Swami Gurudeva. Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai 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 Bhakti Siddhanta Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Srila Prabhupada, Jai Bhakti Siddhanta Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Shri Gurudev ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki jai, Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Gurve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Taralaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namah. Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Nama Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayaniti Namine. Nama Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shri Srimad Gaur Govinda Goswami Yati Namine. Nama Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Nama Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanang pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate giring yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. First of all, I offer my Dandavat Pranam thousands of times in the dust of the lotus feet of our beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Vishnupad, Ashto Tarashata Shri Srimad Shri Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same thousands of Dandavat Pranam in the dust of the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Pravishta Vishnupad, Ashto Tarashata Shri Srimad Shri Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj, whose disappearance day we are observing today. And also the same thousands of Dandavat Pranam in the dust of the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtottara Shatashi Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And also today, I offer my thousands of Dandavat Pranam in the dust of the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtottara Shatashi Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Prabhupada, whose appearance anniversary we are observing today, and to all of our Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Varga, and to all Vaishnavas past, present and future, including all of you who are present with us today, I offer my Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, dear Vaishnavas. Radhe Radhe, Radhe Shyam.
Radhe Shyam. So, today, as you all know, is the anniversary of the appearance of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada in this world. And it is also the anniversary of the disappearance of Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj from this world. Did I say? Oh, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Ashto Tarashta Shishimad Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj. So, I have requested Sudevi to begin the glorifications and the remembrances of these Vaishnavas, and then I will continue. What? Yes. So she's going to start by speaking on Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, but I already had her say something on Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, and then we will continue according to whatever the time permits, and whatever we cannot finish today, we will continue tomorrow and the next day and the next day. We still have so much more to speak on our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. So without further ado, here is Sudevi. Radhe Radhe. Chalo.
Okay. Okay. So I said my Mangalacharna along with Kishori Mohan Prabhu, so we don't have to take so long. This morning I woke up and I had a message from Sonam, and it was a glorification of our Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, remembering the glories of Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj. And so it was the first thing that I listened to this morning. I came out and was chanting Harinam, and then I turned it on after, and I was just quietly listening in the early morning. And Gurudev said something I've never heard him say about anyone else. And he was speaking about Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, and he said, "Today I heard one lecture from him about hypocrisy and duplicity." And he was really very excited, Gurudev, and he was saying, he was so strong, he was so strong. He said, like a lion. And then he said, just like my Gurudev, just like my Gurudev. And I thought, how beautiful and sweet that Gurudev is hearing Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj speaking uncompromising truth, speaking without any diluting, without any trying to pacify anyone watching, without any kind of duplicity. He was just powerfully preaching the truth, and Gurudev saw his own Gurudev in that. And this is why we understand them to be Guru Tattva. We know that they are individual personalities with so much personality and so many so varying personalities. Some may be very meek and quiet and even speak quietly. Like we've heard Kishori Mohan said earlier, that Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj was always very meek and very humble, but when he was on the Vyasa, he was Acharya, a lion Acharya. But at the same time, they are all in essence one, because they are speaking absolute truth. They are speaking the truth. So Guru is one. As our Srila Prabhupada said on the disappearance festival of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that Guru is one, and he appears to you, me, and all others in many millions of different ways, because the message is one. So, but I was listening to that today, and it was making my heart really feel overwhelmed. I have so much appreciation and so much attachment to the lotus feet of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. I remember exactly where I was, what I was doing, what the day looked like when I heard that he disappeared from our vision. I don't think that anything like that happened again since the time of my Gurudev. So I can understand that that was something very shocking in my life, and it made a very permanent impression. I went into a private place and just started crying, and I really didn't know about Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, but the world had changed for me forever. And I just got a phone call and someone said Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj just left. And I went and I wept. Anyway, today's not the day really to, remember so much that, but I wanted to say that even just his appearance or disappearance in the life of anyone is so extraordinary and creates such an impression. This is why when we strive to glorify them, to remember them, to tell something about their beauty, their attributes, their teachings, their life, that we get some attachment for them. This is what the reason they appear and disappear, because that in itself is purifying for us. How will we know about Krishna? How will we know about Mahaprabhu? How will we know about anything if it wasn't for them? And why would Krishna, Mahaprabhu, or any of them want to hear anything from us if we don't first go through them? So it's very important for us these days. I know we stress it and we say it so often. But one of the things that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he took as a service from Srila Gaur Kishori Das Babaji Maharaj. Srila Gaur Kishori Das Babaji Maharaj understood that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was an expert astrologer. And one of the first services he gave him was that he should collect a calendar and do the astrological calculations for all of the holy days of our acharyas, for all avatars. And he had his own notebook where he had all of the days so that he could follow them. And he said, this will be like a treasure for the rest of eternity, otherwise it will be lost. So I believe it was Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj who said that it is because of Srila Gaur Kishori Das Babaji Maharaj and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that we have all of these holy days, that we can remember these personalities, that we can strive and reach, and just by any little source of mercy, we can even just call their names and remember something of what they have given to us. So today is such an incredible holy day. And days like today are really hard because we had to have a discussion who would speak on who. And I had woken up, I told you Sonam had given me the Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj lecture. So then I had a couple as good, As Good Fortune Arises. And I have a couple of books, so I had them out and I was getting ready to read and to remember more, tonight, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. And then I said, Kishori, who do you want to speak on tonight? And he said, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. So I said, okay. Okay, obviously, it's wonderful. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Gurudev actually, I just read this a few minutes ago, because we know that at the time of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gaudiya Vaishnavism was really considered a bad thing. They were sahajyas. They were people who were trying to make money off of kirtan, running after funerals, trying to do Bhagavad Gita, do some kirtan, walking after the dead bodies to make money. So no one actually liked the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We didn't have actually any Chaitanya Charitamritas, Chaitanya Bhagavat. Actually, it was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur who collected the Chaitanya Bhagavat and put the rightful book together and did his own commentary on Chaitanya Bhagavat, because that was almost completely lost. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur did the same thing with Chaitanya Charitamrita. But we can imagine how hidden these scriptures were, so much so that even Gaudiya Vaishnavism was completely covered. Nobody had any access to them before this time. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was realizing, I have a lot of work cut out for me. How will I be able to re-establish this pristine lineage from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Rupa Goswami? So our acharyas have told us that as Bhagirath, he called Ganga Devi down to this world. Bhagirathi, He called Bhagirath, he called Ganga down from the heavenly planets. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in the same way, called Krishna. He said, I need one of your own personal people to come to this plane and to help me execute this mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. On my own, I cannot do it. So he petitioned the Lord. He said, just as Advaita Acharya called for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended, Bhaktivinoda Thakur expressed that he called for someone, for Krishna, for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to send someone to re-establish this Gaudiya Vaishnava truth. And it just came to be so that in February 6, 1874, in Jagannath Puri, that mercy poured down in the form of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He was born to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Sri Bhagavati Devi in Jagannath Puri Dham. We know, all of our acharyas, they tell how astonishing his birth was, that the umbilical cord was around his neck and his body like a Brahmin thread, and it actually made an impression for his life like that. And he had some symptoms of tilak on his body and all of the beautiful bodily attributes of a Mahapurush. So it was obvious that he was quite special from the very beginning. When he was about 6 months old and it was time for his first grain ceremony, it was also the time for the Rath Yatra festival in Jagannath Puri on the Grand Road. If you go there now to the house of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktidaita Madhav Goswami Maharaj made it into a beautiful Gaudiya mat. But there, along that grand road, was where Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was living. He was the magistrate, the district magistrate. It was the highest position anyone could get in, any Indian-bodied person, in the British government. And because of that, he was also in charge of the Jagannath Mandir. He was the superintendent. So at the time of the Rath Yatra festival, we know that thousands upon thousands, millions were pushing and pulling the carts of Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra. But when Lord Jagannath came in front of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house, he didn't move. For 3 days, he stayed in one place. For 3 days. It's unheard of. We know at the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that when Jagannath was watching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing in ecstasy, Jaga Gaga, Jaga Gaga, and he was going through all of these spiritual manifestations. Jagannath was enraptured and smiling. But when the Lord Mahaprabhu would dance behind the cart, Jagannath wouldn't move. He became Jaggernath. He wouldn't move, immovable. And Mahaprabhu would just put his head on the cart and again the cart would go. Chariot. So at this time, 3 days, nothing was happening and thousands and millions were thinking, what is going on? Jagannath is not moving. We sort of understand that Jagannath is leaving Dwarka and he's being pulled to Vrindavan on the chariot of the hearts of the gopis, of the Brajabasis. So on his way there, obviously he needed permission to enter Vrindavan from the maidservants of Srimati Radhika, who are Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bimal Prasad Saraswati Thakur, Nayanamani Manjari and Kamala Manjari. So at that time, because Bhagavati Devi was the wife of the magistrate, she was able to take little Bimal Prasad up on the rath, on the cart, and she put her baby, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. When I say Bimal Prasad, you'll all know that that's Saraswati Thakur. So she put him down in front of Lord Jagannath, And it is said that the baby reached out to touch Jagannath's feet, and at that time a garland fell off Lord Jagannath and encircled the baby. All of the pandas started, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, and they were all saying, this is very auspicious. This child is very extraordinary. So they took the opportunity to give Bimal Prasad his first grains. I read today that is actually the day he was given the name Bimal Prasad, actually, because after Lord Jagannath takes those grains, they're given to Bimal Devi. And because he got the remnants of Bimal Devi, he became Bimal Prasad. Don't know if it's true, but it was something I read throughout all of the biographies of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So also he had, when they have the baby pick all of the different things, like there's gold, there's books, there's mud or something, or cow dung that he might be in agriculture like this. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur picked Srimad Bhagavatam and supposedly also touched some gold. I guess, a little bit of Lakshmi is helpful when you're going to be building 64 mats in 11 years. Can you imagine? They're still trying to build Gopinath Bhavan. 20 years. 64 mats in 11 years. It's unprecedented. Srila Prabhupada, but... So, when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Bimal Prasad was very young, I like to tell this story, this history, because nowadays people try to say this didn't happen. And our Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada tells it in his own glorification of his Guru Maharaj, Saraswati Thakur, that when he was about 3 or 4 years old, his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, bought some beautiful ripe mangoes for their Radha Govinda Vigraha, their deities. Srila Bimal Prasad was just a little boy, and he saw ripe mangoes, as any child would do. He wanted it, so he took it and he ate it. When Bhaktivinoda Thakur saw, he mildly rebuked him. Oh, you have done wrong. This was meant for the Lord, and then you could have it. It should first be offered. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, from that age, so young, he made a vow, I will never take another ripe mango again. And Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, he says, this is Acharya. This is Acharya, one who teaches by example. Obviously, we're understanding that he's not an ordinary boy, that he is descended from Goloka Vrindavan. What child at such an age could make a vow like that? But he is Acharya, showing that everything must be used for the service of Krishna. Otherwise, it should be rejected. It is not touchable. And he punished himself for that through his entire life. Srila Prabhupada would say that when we would offer him a ripe mango, he would fold his hands and say, no, I'm an offender. Although our acharyas, many other acharyas have said that he did accept unripe mango chutney. So very sour mango chutney he would accept, but never that thing that he took became, I wouldn't say lusty, but as a child wanted to consume that sweetness. For enjoyment, he never touched that again. When he was about 7, 8 years old, his father was building another place to live. I think it was Bhakti Bhavan. And anyway, as they were digging for the foundation, they unearthed a Kurma deity. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Bimal Prasad wanted this deity. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur initiated him into Kurma mantra. And from that time, he started wearing shika and tilak and getting up and daily doing his seva. Also, very soon after that, he was initiated into the Harinam Mahamantra, which he would chant daily. It is said when he was very young, he would always be accompanying his father to so many of his lectures. He would carry his father's books on his head, and he was also, at a very young age, like his father's secretary. And as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was writing Sri Shikshamrita, he would explain it to Saraswati Thakur, who was understanding everything and also writing things down for him. When he was about actually 5 years old, He could actually recite the whole Bhagavad Gita, but not just recite. He could give commentaries on each verse.
Really? At 5?
He could give commentaries on each verse.
Wow.
Yes, he knew the meanings. This is really astonishing. Like Kishori Mohan always tells, how in Gurukul we learned so many shlokas, and they learned the whole Brahma Samhita, which he remembers today. But if you ask him for all of the meanings, some of them he can give, not all of them. So to actually be able to give meanings, this is one thing our Gurudev would do with his Gurukul students, like in Badger and different places. When the children would stand up and they would give their recital of a shlok from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, he would say, in your own words, what does it mean to you? Daiva Yesha Gunamayim. What does that mean to a 10-year-old? It doesn't mean anything. But Gurudev wanted, in your words, I want to know, how have you made this verse yours, and tell me what it means for you. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur at such an age could do this. Also it is said that Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj from very young could recite all of these extraordinary Shastra Pramans. I think 7, 8 years old as well. He knew Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, so many. When Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was young and in school, he was never seen to study. If he heard the teacher tell something once, he knew it and could be tested on any subject. He found it bothersome to have to worry about the material books. He never studied. But it is said that he always had 2 books with him. And that was Prema Bhakti Chandrika, Prarthana and Prem Bhakti Chandrika. So these were his favorite books, and also he would hear very, very deep lectures from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur on Srila Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. From a very young age, he was learning about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was very, very attracted to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his teachings. He didn't want to spend so much time in academics, although he was so scholarly. When he was 17, he was given the title Siddhanta Saraswati, and he had 17.
Wow.
Actually, some places it says he was 12, but I believe it was 17. He was given the title Siddhanta Saraswati, and he had already written 2 books on astrology and mathematics. He was so intelligent. He even had his own kind of shorthand that he used to do. I mean, it's when you read about him, it's astonishing. There's like, I mean, when you read about astonishing people, it's so mundane compared to when you read about our acharyas, what they knew, what they had, what they could have done materially, but what they gave up for Guru and Krishna. They wanted none of that kind of prestige. We know that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he was even, I think in his 20s, the president of the Calcutta University, they wanted him to have the chairman's seat there. There's nobody else who is qualified to have this seat other than you. We want you to take this seat. Saraswati Thakur said, I have not come to count the stars in the heavens and the grains of sand on the sea. I've not come to waste my time in this. So he declined. I don't want this chair. I don't want this position. And so they said, as long as you are present in this world, that chair will remain empty because there is no one qualified other than you to sit in it. And until he left, they kept that chair vacant. So we can understand that even materially, he was so exalted. It is said that his English was so high that even English literatures or English professors couldn't understand his English. What to speak of his Bengali and his Sanskrit. He was perfect in it. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he would say that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said there's no need to dumb down language when you're speaking spiritual topics. They should be meant to be very high and not taken very loosely. So it is said that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he would meet general people, especially obviously in Bengal, not Westerners, but general people that had some idea of Dharma, some idea of karma, some idea of Devi, Deva, and especially some idea of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He wouldn't tell them to read Bhagavad Gita. He wouldn't tell them to read Srimad Bhagavatam or even Chaitanya Charitamrita. He would always ask them to read Chaitanya Bhagavat, because Chaitanya Bhagavat isn't so philosophical. Really, it's mostly just the beautiful Leela of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with some philosophy in there. But when you go into Chaitanya Charitamrita, there you get all of the Srimad Bhagavatam, all of the ras, all of the high philosophical moods of our Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rup Shiksha, Sanatan Shiksha, Ramananda Samvad, everything is there, and it is so exalted. And it's after that that he would say you can read Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was very inclined to have people read those books that were easily accessible for us, that we wouldn't have to struggle too much with our tiny brains to understand. And as we would read them, we would improve and we would grow. And then that spiritual sukriti would make impressions. Just like, I guess, he read Chaitanya Bhagavat and Chaitanya Charitamrita 108 times each. He read them each, and he would tell all of his disciples that they should also read them 108 times each. I found that to be really extraordinary. I know that our Gurudev also had that same affinity for Jaiva Dharma, and he read that 108 times. So these manifestations from the hearts of our acharyas are our treasures. And when we take them and we try to approach them with a submissive mood, and we read them under that kind of umbrella and guidance of our acharyas, then those spiritual impressions will build and build and build in us, and slowly we will be able to understand spiritual language. I don't like the fan.
Turn it off.
Thank you. So, actually it said that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he would actually give lectures, he would do it to more educated persons that could understand his language. I don't think he really knew how to bring it down. But that when he would go to villages and when he would go to the masses of people, it was usually during prasadam distribution, where he would walk up and down the aisles and talk to them about the prasadam and little just kind of nice things for them so that they could understand and become inclined to such a personality as Saraswati Thakur. By this I was seeing how their mercy is so, so generous to those who could take some kind of philosophical calculations, that could learn something, that could actually from one point go. He would give as much as he could. And from those who couldn't do much, he would give prasadam anyway, in any way he could. And we could see that his own disciples, like our own very Srila Prabhupada, even to us children, to babies that couldn't even have any teeth at that time, he would give us cookies and give us prasadam. By any way they come and they reach out to us, most unqualified or most qualified, they're reaching their hands out in whichever way to bring us back to our original Krishna conscious position. And this is why they descend to this world. Actually, this is something I read today that I thought was beautiful. Our Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, he said that if these two personalities, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, had not appeared in this world, then Shuddha Bhakti would not exist in the world today. I mean, that is such a heavy statement. It was so covered, Gurudev said, at the time of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, at that time, there were already 13 Upasampradayas. Kishori? Can you get the door? What? Can you get the door? There were already 13 Upasampradayas. This means like Sakhi Bekis, Bowls, all different types of Sahajya followers, saying that they were in the lineages of Advaita Acharya, of Nityananda Prabhu, of Mahaprabhu, but they were actually twisting those conceptions. So there were 13 Dandavat Pranam of these Upasampradayas at that time. So then Srila Gurudev said at the time of Param Gurudev there were 39. So this is just after the time of Saraswati Thakur, there were 13. After the time of Param Gurudev, there were 39 Upasampradayas. And now, Gurudev said, what were his exact words? Who knows? Who knows how many Upasampradayas, how many Sahajya sects there are out there perverting the pure path of this bhakti river that these acharyas have strived so hard to uphold. This is why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, our Param Gurudev, and our Guru Varg were always fighting relentlessly to keep this Gaudiya Siddhanta, this Bhakti Siddhanta pure, without deviating from it even a little bit. Material matters they never minded on, but things that were within this cult of bhakti were not to be compromised whatsoever. The moment there was compromise, they would be taken to court. That Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would have a daily magazine, a weekly magazine, a monthly magazine, and a yearly magazine. And if anything was going on around, it would go out the next day. And he would be calling out other people. And he would expecting a debate. He wanted to do debates publicly. He wanted them to be recorded so people could write it down and print it in the papers so that people would understand that this is a real problem. The diluting of the pristine bhakti siddhanta. This thing should not be let go. This is why it is imperative for all of us as disciples of our Gurudevs. And I know everyone, oh, I'm not a disciple like this. No. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that is miserliness and that is jivahingsa. If we have come in... meaning violence to jivas. If we have come in contact with someone like our Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada, the Mahamantra, Vrindavan, if we have any knowledge that the soul is an eternal servant of Krishna, then we have to have this kind of conviction in our acharyas that we can tell their moods and conceptions. This is our duty. This is our duty. We are not meant just to ride along in a boat and not row.
Or
roar.
To just be kittens and not roar.
We are supposed to be moving. We are supposed to be what they have given us. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was saying what has been given down to us, it is our duty to give it to others. We cannot be misers. We cannot be those persons who are killers of others and our own selves by not giving this message. He said, how else will they come in contact with it? The idea of it, it strikes fear in my heart. How many billions of people living, or even jivas, moving in this world without any knowledge of Krishna, without any knowledge of Mahamantra, of any cure for anything. And all they're doing is trying to sustain their lives by eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They're just living to die. And Vaishnavas are dying to live. This is completely opposite. And we are those persons who have received this inheritance from these personalities like Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, like our Param Gurudev and our Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada. We've received this. They have worked so hard. Gurudev said all of that hard labor that has come from them, we have inherited that. That means we are rich. That means our wealth is so incalculable. We don't understand it. It is so much that we can't even conceive of it. But if we can tell one jiva every day about Krishna, then this will be service to our Guru Varg. One disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I don't remember his name, he was one of his sannyasis and he was preaching. And he was such a heavy preacher. Actually, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was too when he was young. Bhaktivinoda Thakur would have him preach. And when Bhaktivinoda Thakur would preach, the hall would become filled with people. And when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would preach, the hall would become empty. So some of his disciples had the same because he was so strong. So one of his disciples was preaching, and everyone knew whenever this disciple would preach, everyone would leave. So everybody started packing up, the brahmacharis, and the Maharaj, you can stop, everyone is here. And this sannyasi, I wish I remembered his name, he said, what? It wasn't Shri Rup Siddhanti Maharaj. He said, what? You think that only when there is a big audience, when we have some show, that only then it is preaching? He said there are so many jivas, even those that are no longer embodied. There are spirits around. There are trees, there are creepers, there are mosquitoes, there are insects. There are so many incalculable jivas sitting here listening, and you think that only those people embodied in human bodies like this, sitting in front of us, and we have some pomp and show, then it is preaching. So this is another lesson. And also Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had this habit of speaking so strongly. They said he was like as strong, as hard as a thunderbolt, but as soft as a rose. But getting to that rose means that that's through seva. When he would see anyone inclined to serve, then immediately you would see that beautiful, sweet fragrance. But if there was any Mayavadi or anyone going against the teachings of Mahaprabhu, it is said that he would actually attack them, like grab them and start yelling at them and defeating them. So much so that Mayavadis, when they would be walking down the street, if they would see Saraswati Thakur, they would run across the street to get away from him.
That's what some of Nimai Pandit's friends used to do.
Actually, yes, it was like that. When he was younger, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur really loved to debate, and then he gave all that up as well. But when it was upholding the teachings of his Guru Varg, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and especially in the line of Srila Rupa Goswami, he was so uncompromising. So it is also said that we know, I don't have so much longer, when he was about 24 years old, he for the first time met Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. When he saw him, he was astonished. Babaji Maharaj would wear like a loincloth, even sometimes taken from a dead body. He would take old pots and clean them and then cook rice in them. And he was like avadut. He wasn't following the way we're taught to follow, because he was completely saturated in love and prem of Krishna. So anyway, when he first saw him, he was looking at him like, oh, who is this personality? And he was attracted to him. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur told him, you should go and you should take initiation from him. So Saraswati Thakur went and he asked Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj to initiate him. Babaji Maharaj said, you are so intelligent. I don't even know how to write my own name. I am illiterate. And you, with all of your vast knowledge of the heavens, of everything, how can I instruct you? And immediately, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur realized that all of that knowledge, all of that material wealth that he had accumulated through schooling and through material senses was worthless. Even at some point, Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj told him to take it and to throw it all away, get rid of all of it. But Babaji Maharaj wouldn't accept him. He came back again. He asked, please, will you accept me as your disciple? I want no one other than you. Babaji Maharaj said, well, I have to ask Gauranga. If he says, then I can do. A few days later, he came back. Did you ask? Did you ask Lord Gauranga? He said, yes, I asked, but he didn't give me an answer. So then, finally, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj said that he quoted one verse from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. What is it? Kandiya, Kandiya? Hoye Kandiya, Kandiya, Pranana Rakhi Bhar. He's saying, if you do not give me your mercy, then weeping and weeping I will give up my life. And also he said something like Ramanujacharya was rejected like 18 times before he was accepted by his guru. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said something like that to Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, like, I still have 16 times, I'm not giving up. But he let him know. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur went to him and said, why are you doing this? Why are you torturing the poor boy? Give him initiation. And so then hearing Bhaktisiddhanta weeping like that, Babaji Maharaj told him to go bathe and to come back, and he initiated him. And he gave him the name Sri Barshabhanabi Devi Daita. Beautiful. Can you...
No, you can just tell what Srila Gurudev said.
Do it.
Hopefully you can hear me. Srila Gurudev Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj stated that there's another meaning of Sri Varshabhanavi Devi Daita. Most people think that Daita is the beloved of Sri Varshabhanavi Devi, meaning Srimati Radhika, that is Krishna. But Srila Gurudev explained that there's another deep meaning of this name. Who else is near and dear to Sri Varshabhanavi Devi, Srimati Radhika? That is Sri Rupa. So, our Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada is very near and dear to Sri Rupa Manjari, Sri Rupa Goswami.
So Srila Saraswati Thakur, after this time, he became very, very renounced. Even Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj would say that he would call Saraswati Thakur my Prabhu. And he would say, in my Prabhu, I see the renunciation of Rupa and Raghunath. Wow. So, and he's Sakshat Vairagya Murtaya, he's the embodiment of renunciation. And he's saying this about Saraswati Thakur. So Saraswati Thakur began performing a Chandra Vrat, and he also began performing Chaturmasya Vrat and the chanting of 1 billion names of Krishna in 10 years.
That's like 3 lakhs a day, right?
3 lakhs a day. This was so intense, actually, that he became something of a madman. He was in Navadvip, actually Mayapur, and he had a little thatched hut. And it is said that even when it would rain, he had no time to worry about it and to fix it. He would just hold up a somewhat broken umbrella and continue chanting. Sometimes we hear that there are persons now that are chanting 5 lakhs or 7 lakhs. But when we hear about the glories of Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur and our Guru Varg like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, we understand that it is not such an easy thing. Some people, they do like speed chanting, or they do something to get rounds done quicker. And it's not the more the merrier. They're doing a vrat and they're calling out to the Lord. And this is their bhajan, they're weeping, they're worshipping. This isn't just getting numbers in. It's not some kind of a contest. Oh, I can chant more than Namacharya Haridas Thakur, or I can do better than this, or I can do faster and still do all kinds of other things in the world. Not like that. Saraswati Thakur would eat only 1 time a day, and he would eat some khichdi, and it was without any seasoning in it, only a little salt and ghee, and he would eat it on the ground with his hands behind his back, and he would go down once and eat that, and like a cow. And then if he would get up once, you wouldn't go back down and take again. As much as you would eat like that, that's how much you got for the day. So he was so renounced, and he was doing so much austerity. I think this is also something, if we can just stop and actually just really kind of take a pointed look at this. Sometimes we run from austerity and we think we don't need to perform any austerity, but without vrat, without tapa, what will we get? We know that even Lord Brahma, he was trying on his own to learn, where am I? What is this darkness? Why do I exist? And what did he hear? Tap, tap. Do some austerity. Almost all of our acharyas have shown through this kind of austerity, and not dry austerity, but diving deep into Harinam, diving deep into the processes of bhakti given by our acharyas, we see how they have made so much. They don't need to make advancement, but for us, they're showing how much comes out of restraining all of these senses that are running ragged and wild in the world, trying to see, hear, taste, smell, and touch everything. They rein all of that in, and they use it as fuel to burn for love to Krishna. And in that, they light up the entire world, the entire universe. When we hear about Ekadashi, when we hear about Chaturmasya, when we hear about following rules for fasts, we become so despondent. But our acharyas take these on to show us that they are not lifeless rituals. If we do it with a purpose, with an intention to please Guru, to please Mahaprabhu, to please Krishna, then it will be the actual fuel for our advancement in bhakti and will catapult us on the path to Krishna. But if we remain lazy and don't want to take any austerity or do any tapasya for Guru and Krishna, then what will we ever get? Even Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj, someone came to him when he was building the Bhuvaneshwar Mat, the temple in Bhuvaneshwar. Someone came to him and wanted to give him a suitcase of money that he could build the mat. Why are you sending people out to work this, that? Here you go. He didn't want it. He said, I don't want that. I want my disciples to go out and work hard for this temple, because then they will get the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. This is why they're doing it. They're not doing it to get it done. They're not doing it as a quick process to just have a temple. They're doing it to incur the mercy of the Guru Parampara on all of their children, on all of their disciples. So we should understand that doing all of these austerities like Chaturmasya, like Ekadashi, we don't even follow them even like a tenth of what our acharyas followed. If we even tried to live like that for one day, we would probably not get up for 3 weeks. And what do? Oh, we don't take grains, we just take potatoes, or, we don't take tomatoes for 3 or 4 months, and we think that we're dying, or that, we're doing some great austerity. Maybe for us it is actually, but we should do it with a mood and an intention to try to please our Guru Varga, but taking a moment to just deliberate on doing vrat and doing some austerity for the pleasure of our Gurudev is an important process, because it helps us to stop trying to make this world our place of enjoyment. And this is something that we do inevitably every second of our lives. We're always trying to be comfortable. If I don't feel good, I'm moving, I'm switching. If I'm hungry, I'm eating. We're always trying to find comfort. And when we do some tapasya, we learn to try to become equipoised, and we learn how to tolerate. We tolerate hunger, we tolerate pain, we tolerate these things. But if we don't learn vrat and tapa, and we don't do it for the purpose of serving Krishna, we will never learn actually how to balance and tolerate. And that is something, even if we learned it materially, we will never gain bhakti. So everything must be done with the mood to please Krishna. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he went quite mad. It is said that one of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's disciples came after Bhaktivinoda Thakur left this world. He wrote a letter to Saraswati Thakur. Before he left, he said, Saraswati, don't be a miser. You have to go out and preach. You have to preach the mission of Mahaprabhu. This movement isn't made for just a few people in Bharatvarsh. It's for the entire universe. Don't be a miser. Get up and preach. Don't do this nirjan bhajan. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wasn't ready to do it. And so then one man came from Calcutta, and he went and he started searching. Hey, do you know the son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur? I'm looking for Saraswati Thakur. And they're like, the villagers were saying, no, we don't know anyone like that, but we know there's one kind of mad Baba with jata. He has these dreadlocks. He's off, but he's a madman, but he might be him. So this man went looking, and he saw Saraswati Thakur running with all of his clothes on and jumped in the Ganga, and he was screaming and splashing, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. And then he jumped out, and the man went to him and he said, are you the son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur? And he was like, yes, Hare Krishna. And he was just like a madman. And he said, you have to come with me and you have to preach. You have to go and preach the kirtan of Mahaprabhu. And Saraswati Thakur said, we're here in Mayapur. Don't you see Mahaprabhu's Leela is going on now? Look at the kirtan. And he just started chanting and he ran into the jungle. And the man just thought, it's a lost cause. It's a completely lost cause. He's gone. So he left. One day, when Saraswati Thakur was sitting down chanting Harinam, and this is an astonishing thing because we've already resolved that finding Chaitanya Charitamrita, it took Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur 5 years to find a proper copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. 5 years. So then, one day Saraswati Thakur was sitting down chanting Harinam, and a piece of paper blew in the wind and it fell on his lap. And it was a piece of paper about Chaitanya. It was from Chaitanya Charitamrita. And I don't remember exactly what verse it was, but it was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talking about preaching and preaching his Vani. And it was at that point he just snapped. He was no longer externally a madman. All the madness of Krishna Prem was kept very, very tightly in his heart. Externally, he was very, very sober. He stood up. He went and he took sannyas from a picture of his own Gurudev, Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. And he went to Calcutta, knocked on the door, and he said, go and establish that we are opening a mission, the Gaudiya mission. And by 4 o'clock that evening, on the day he took sannyas from the picture, the Gaudiya mission was registered. Wow. Isn't that amazing? So after that time, he started to get followers, and so many like our Param Gurudev, who was 16 at the time, also his aunties. His aunties, I want to say this because for our Param Gurudev's aunties, because for us ladies especially, this is important. Before this, our Param Gurudev's aunts, they wanted to accept initiation from him. But Saraswati Thakur didn't want to initiate ladies at that time because having brahmacharis and sannyasis is easier when you have ladies and then children, and then it becomes a very big thing to take care of. Imagine if you're just a householder and you have your house, you have your wife or your husband and your children. That's already a lot, even if it's only 1 or 2 kids. Imagine hundreds and thousands of them. So he thought, keep it simple. So his aunties, Param Gurudev's aunties, they were like, what, women don't count? We don't deserve, we're not jivas also, you won't give us initiation? And so then, because of them, he gave initiation to ladies. And then also, our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, before the time of our Param Gurudev, he didn't give Guru Gayatri and Guru Mantra. But our Param Gurudev said, what, do I have to go to another Guru, to another personality to give me Guru Mantra and Guru Gayatri? I can't get it from you. So then it was from that time that within our lineage from Saraswati Thakur, we were given the Guru Mantra and Guru Gayatri. So those are directly related to our Gurudev and our Param Gurudev. So those are very dear to me. I just want to talk a very little bit about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's preaching. We know that at the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, well, even we were hearing about Srila Narottam Das Thakur and how they wanted to kill him because he was born in a line of like princely or kingly landowners, but he was going and giving diksha to Chakravartis and to Bhattacharyas, these high class Brahmins, and so they wanted to kill him. The same happened with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was preaching very strongly against this caste Goswami and caste Brahmi, Smarta Brahmin ideal, that only they had the right to be gurus, only they had the right to do Krishna bhakti, to do deity worship, and to save people, to have Shastra. Even this is one of the reasons it was so hard to get Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Bhagavat, because they kept them to themselves. If anybody wanted to know these scriptures and to know the inner moods of these scriptures, they had to go to these caste Goswamis or caste Brahmins to hear from them, who actually, because they weren't following purely the lineage of the Goswamis and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because birth has nothing to do with position. So how can they actually disseminate and delineate these teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our acharyas, of Namacharya Haridas Thakur? How can they do that if they're not living that? If they're saying that through my seminal birth, because I was born to somebody who is called a Brahmin, or I was born to somebody who's taken the last name Goswami, that now I'm also a Goswami. I'm like Raghunath Das Goswami or Gopal Bhatta Goswami. I'm in that lineage. They can't actually preach on behalf of Mahaprabhu and on behalf of those Goswamis, because what they are doing is directly opposed to that, to saying that my birth qualifies me, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, and none of this is. You are eternally Nitya Krishna Das. All of these bodily designations have nothing to do with the real me. And that Brahman is actually by our character, by our religiosity, our study.
Qualities and activities.
Qualities and activities. And Goswami is so high. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, before him, all would wear white, but he didn't want to take this very high Goswami Paramahamsa kind of vesh, which is why he actually re-established in a way the Tridandi Sannyas cloth, because he felt it's too there's only 15 minutes in Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. He didn't like that.
We're only like 10% into Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhu.
He didn't like that it was being misused, that everybody's a Babaji, everybody's a Goswami. But with a sannyas, you have to uphold a particular kind of standard. It was very different, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur upheld that very, very high, rigid, hard standard, and all of his disciples also had to follow this. So he took this on himself. So when he came to Vrindavan for the first time, after doing all of this and having all of his disciples, it is said not just Vrindavan, in Puri and in Navadvip, Mayapur, the shop people would close their shops, temples would close. Even here, all of the 7 temples closed except Radharaman Mandir, because one of the Goswamis there, Madhusudan Goswami, was a very close, affectionate friend of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and also knew Saraswati Thakur from his youth when they stayed in Vrindavan here. But they all closed their doors and they wouldn't allow them to enter. They couldn't have darshan of Thakurji, and they wouldn't let them buy things from their stalls like vegetables and sabjis. They had to undergo so much hardship. And just imagine these stalwart sannyasis and brahmacharis and Saraswati Thakur not being allowed to enter into the temples. But upon seeing Sri Radharamanji, Srila Saraswati Thakur said that we've lost nothing. By having darshan of Radharaman, we are having darshan, the feet of Madan Mohan, the beautiful chest and waist of Govindaji, and the face of Gopinath. So beautiful. So one last thing I wanted to talk about, no, it's not the last thing, but I really want to hear about Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj as well. And I know all of you do too. So I read something today that I hadn't read before, and I found it to be really, really powerful. And that is when we know that there was a huge flood, and I don't remember the place, starts with an M. Anyway, one province, there was a really bad flood, and people were really suffering. And so lots of... Medinapur maybe. Many people were going there.
Bangladesh, right?
Yes, and they were bringing like relief. They were bringing food, they were bringing blankets, they were just helping people, water. And Saraswati Thakur went there, and he was also going there but collecting for flood relief. And so people started becoming really upset because he wasn't actually giving it to the people for their bodies. He was putting money into building these dioramas of these like dolls for the illiterate people who couldn't read any Shastra or even understand philosophical anything. So he wanted them to be able to see in these dioramas and in these dolls the whole idea of what is the soul, what is Krishna, what is Mahaprabhu, what is Maya. So he was building all of these beautiful dioramas with the flood money. And so Subhash Chandra Bose and even Gandhi became really, really upset with him, and they started fighting with him, and Gandhi posed 12 questions to him. And for 3 days, this Chandra Bose was actually protesting with signs outside the mat. And Saraswati Thakur didn't say anything. And after 3 days, he came out and he answered all of their questions. But one of the things he said to Gandhi, he said that our ghee and the ghee for Jagannath in his temple that are meant to be burnt for the pleasure of the Lord are not meant to use to oil your spinning wheel, your cotton spinning wheel. He was saying everything is used and meant to be used for Krishna. And he said, if a fire burns the whole world, do not waste time trying to put it out. All necessities can be met only by serving Krishna. Wow. So this was his mood. He was saying, he said to Gandhi, he said, you're going and someone has a boil and you're blowing on the boil. But actually what you need to do is in an operation. He said, you're going out there and you're just touching the bodies of people. You're only worried about the body. And he said, but what about the Atma? What about that Jiva who has been rotating in samsara since time immemorial? What are you doing for them? Nothing. Nothing. You're only pushing and imposing on them this idea that I am Indian, this is my sanskar, this is my land, this is my right, this is my Hindu, my this, my that. He said, we don't associate with any of it. We might appreciate some ideas, some aspects, but we are none of this. We are eternally Nitya Krishna Das. We are not Hindu. We are not any of this thing. And this is where again he was saying that jiva hingsa, violence to the jivas, is not preaching to them about Krishna. When everyone was suffering, when everyone was crying and blaming the Lord, why did you do this? Why did you kill my family members? Why am I suffering? Why am I not able to have my house anymore? Why God? Why God? And they were losing faith. He was going in there and he was trying to infuse them with faith, knowing that what is meant to happen will happen. It's meant to come to you. It is your karma. But don't think that just because you've come to this point in your own sojourn in your karma, that is the Lord cursing you. Actually, now is the time for you to wake up and turn toward the Lord. So he was using every facility to bring people toward Krishna. When he did his Navadvip Parikrama, we heard a little bit yesterday how they went to try to kill him. They wanted to kill him, these Smarta Brahmins and caste Goswamis, because he was stealing their business. Meaning everybody was realizing that they didn't own Krishna, that they didn't own Shastra, that actually someone can be qualified even if they're not born in a Brahmin or Goswami family. Like our Srila Prabhupada, he wasn't born in a Brahmin family, but look what he has done throughout the entire world. Has anyone ever seen anything like that? And if it was only for a Brahmin, what hope would we have had? How would we have made any endeavor toward Krishna consciousness if Srila Prabhupada wouldn't have come? If Srila Saraswati Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur didn't bring this pristine Bhagirati back to the world, this bhakti flow of that Ganga to the world, we would be lost. because it would only be up to a Brahmin, a caste Brahmin or a caste Goswami. This is a dangerous precedent, and this is what happened throughout history, why it keeps becoming covered over. So they tried to kill him. And what did Saraswati Thakur do? He took his own advice, just how he was telling people, what has come to you is your karma, but take it and turn your eyes toward Krishna and pray to always have a place at his lotus feet. What did he do? He didn't, when the police came and said, do you know who came against you? Do you know who came to attack you? Saraswati Thakur said, I don't know. And his disciples were looking at him like, yes, we do know. We know who they are. Saraswati Thakur said, no, we're not going to make any court case. We're not going to go against them. But they said, why? They've hurt so many were wounded. There was blood everywhere. They tried to kill you. They destroyed everything. Now what will happen? Saraswati Thakur said, they have done lakhs and lakhs of preaching for us. What would have taken us 10 to 20 years, they have done in one moment. Now, the mission of the Gaudiya Math, what we stand for, has been in the front page of every paper in India. All different princes and kings from Jaipur, Bihar, from all over India have been writing me, asking me, what happened? Everybody wants to know what is our message and why all of them have gone against us. And now we have a chance to preach this mission of Mahaprabhu without any opposition. They have done more preaching for us than we have done in all this time, in one situation. So this is Tattenu Kampam. If he would have gone after them and taken the sympathy of the people in another direction, then the mission would have been lost. The mood of the mission would have been lost. But what did he do? He utilized even the bad bargain that was given. The parikrama was ruined. People were hurt. They were wounded. They were hospitalized. Everything was chaos. Elephants were running crazy. It was a mad, what is it? Riot. And yet, he used it in the service of Krishna. And because of that, the Gaudiya Math became more and more celebrated. Everywhere he went, he was treated with such prestige. Everyone knew that he was uncompromising and that he didn't believe in any of this caste system. He didn't believe in any of this idea that you have to be born in any certain way to become a devotee of God. That every jiva, regardless of their body, whether they're a human body, whether they're in a subtle body, a ghost body, whether they're an animal or a plant or a tree or a deer or a dog, every single jiva is eternally, their birthright is to love Krishna, and no one is barred from that. And this is the message of Gaudiya Math. This is the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and its pinnacle lies pretty much in the name of Sri Varshabhanabi Devi Dayita Das. So now, I know that I rushed through this a little bit, but I feel that it's very important that we hear something of Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj tonight. He is, as our Srila Gurudev said, he said that, actually in this lecture that I listened to this morning, he said only he is actually following what Prabhupada was giving, what our Saraswati Thakur was coming to give. He was uncompromising, and he didn't care who would go against him. When you hear about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and you hear about Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj, I feel that I can understand why this day is synonymous with both of them, because they are both roaring lions, uncompromising, hard as a thunderbolt and soft as a rose, and they are both overwhelming and the most inspirational Vaishnavas that I feel we are so fortunate to have been born at such a time, so close to someone like Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj and Saraswati Thakur and our Srila Prabhupada and our Gurudev. I mean, it's unprecedented what we've been given in this period of time, and to be able to hear about him, glorify him, talk about him, watch his videos, meet his disciples. It's a continuous ocean of nectar. And so I request Kishori Mohan to please come and say something about Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, his glories, his teachings, his disciples, his beauty, his birth, his Gadai Giri, his everything. So, Dandavat Pranam, dear Vaishnavas.
You have a lot more to say about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada.
Radhe, Radhe. Radhe, Radhe.
Guess who showed up when Sudevi was speaking? Remember when she said, get the door? Pure cow seva showed up. They're both here. Say Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
There you go. So, Dandavat Pranam. I know it's getting late, and maybe you all have your schedules. So please forgive us for going overtime. Oh, it's not overtime yet. We normally end at 8:15, so we still have 15 minutes. Sudevi was rushing, and really she has so much more to speak. So much more. She just barely touched on some of the glories of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, and especially in his early life. But really there's so much more to speak about him. There's so much more to speak about our Param Guru Day from the day before. And of course there's going to be so much more to speak about Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. Really, these transcendental personalities, their glories are unlimited. So what can we really say about them in such a short time? 1 hour is nothing to glorify someone whose glories are unlimited. Even Krishna is endeavoring to glorify his pure devotees, but because their love is so great, he becomes completely submissive and sold out to them. So, devotees are saying to you, Radhe Radhe, Sudevi and Anup. Yeah, sure. You have to be seen.
Look, here's our...
Just double click the trigger. Just double click it, it's quick. The trigger, boom, boom, underneath. That underneath, where your fingers are, underneath. There you go.
Oh, there's Anup, and there's Sudevi.
Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe.
Okay.
There you go. So Sudevi spoke very, very powerfully, roaring like a lioness. The daughter of a lion is also a lion. And sometimes those female lions are very, very ferocious. So Gurudev would be very pleased.
Oh, I need to put it down a little bit, Saraswati Thakur.
Yes, we need to see him.
Okay.
Jai. Can you see? Okay. So Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj. I'll start by mentioning something about him, my own personal experience. Growing up in ISKCON, we saw so many sadhus come. I saw so many big personalities come and also go. So many gurus were no longer gurus. So many sannyasis were no longer sannyasis. And I remember the first time I saw Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. I was a teenager in Los Angeles, and he showed up in the morning time. His stature was relatively small compared to a lot of the devotees around him, but there was a buzz around him that was very, very different from what I was accustomed to. His disciples were a little bit
Crazy for him.
Different than what I had seen with other disciples for other gurus. And I was like, whoa. They seemed a little bit really into him. And I noticed that was the first impression I got. And I was like, okay, well here we got a group of disciples that are kind of fired up. And
Raghava Pandit, one of them.
Yeah, I didn't even realize, I saw Raghava Pandit at that time, and Jagadish, and so many at that time, and I didn't even know, years before I officially met them. So it was time for Bhagavatam class. He was there in front of the temple. Everyone went inside, And Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj started to give class. At that time, I was going to the temple every day and listening to class, and I was used to Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Then the devotee reads the verse, has like 4 or 5 devotees chant the verse, does the translation, reads the purport, speaks on it for 15 minutes, time for prasadam. Let's do the rest of the important things we need to do. So I wasn't expecting anything different than that. I was sitting there, Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj led Jai Radha Madhava. We're all singing Jai Radha Madhava. The temple was pretty packed. Then Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj read the verse. And unlike everyone else, who only had 4 or 5 people chant the verse, he made sure to have every single person chant the verse. One thing I forgot. Before speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj glorified Srimad Bhagavatam. It was 5 minutes, okay? 10 minutes, quoting all verses from everywhere. 15 minutes, I was like, okay, the class should be over now. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes of just glorifying Bhagavatam. He said, now we will get to the verse. And I was like, whoa, wait a second, what about breakfast? And then he started to do the verse. One devotee stood up to leave. He said, where are you going? The devotee said, I have to go to work. It's getting like almost 9 o'clock. I have to go to work. He said, do you think your work will save you at the time of death? What will it do for you? Sit down and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. The devotee sat down. I was like, ooh. And at that time, I didn't have proper respect for anyone, and I almost still don't, unfortunately. But I was thinking, this person really believes in what he's doing. That was the impression I got of Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. He has faith in this. Different than others. This person really, really believes in what he is doing, because who could spend 45 minutes just as an introduction? So then he did the verse. He said, now we are coming to our verse. And so then he had every single person, I mean, I swear there was about 50 to 100 devotees in the temple. Every single person had to chant the verse. I was like, that's different. Normally it was only 4, now it's 100. Even I had to chant the verse. So then he did the translation. Then he read the purport. And as he was reading the purport, he was speaking, but it wasn't something that was pre-planned. There was no rehearsal involved. It wasn't like he had planned this out and he was going to speak this and this and this. And it was speaking, and he was fired up, enthusiastic. And I remember one of the first things I saw, he would pick one person out of the audience. Anup Krishna! Are you remembering Krishna? Or are you nonsense, Mayadas? And then poof, he would hammer again and again and again. And I just remember I was like, ooh. In the beginning, the first day, I was sitting closer to the front. The second day, I backed up a bit. The third day, in the back of the temple. 4th day, all the way by the door. 5th day.
His disciples would rush to sit close to him.
5th day, outside, like that. I mean, he was frightening. But his disciples were all rushing the stage. They wanted the cane, you know. He would like pop them on the head, and they would be like, mercy, nectar. And all the rest of us were like, whoa. So I remember, again, at a certain point, after the shlokas, after the translation, he started to speak the purport. It was 9:30. It was way after the time for breakfast. People were supposed to be at work at 9. Another devotee stood up. Where are you going? Well, I'm late for work. I have to go to work. You think your work is important. It will only bring you death. You should hear Srimad Bhagavatam. It is the Maha Oshadhi. It is the only remedy for everything. Sit down and listen to Srimad Bhagavatam. I was like, whoa. It's the first time I experienced something like that. This person, Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, had extreme faith in what he was speaking about. He was not doing anything to get it over with. He was doing everything to include everyone into what is really worth doing, and everything else he saw as really worthless. Your job and this and that, what's that going to do for you? Here's Srimad Bhagavatam, that will nourish your soul. And so this class went on. I think he finished, maybe almost at 11 o'clock. And we were like, it was quite amazing to just be there because he was so powerful when he would speak. It was no rehearsal. It was just flowing from his heart. And it was with so much conviction, so much faith, so much strength, so much excitement and enthusiasm. It was actually too much for me to handle. It was too much for me to handle. I just didn't know what to do with that. Coming from my very, very dense brick-like state, how do I handle something like that? Sudevi was also there. You were there at that time, weren't you?
I just remember him walking in the temple. I didn't go in.
So eventually, maybe so that I would not make too much aparad, maybe it was aparad, but I was kind of outside the temple. But he had a microphone. And they had these speakers in the temple. Oh gosh. 5 feet high, means almost 1.5 meters, and at least 1 meter wide, and like that. So 3 feet wide, and there was one up on either side, facing down at the audience. And he had this microphone, and when he would make his point, at a certain point, his voice would just go like that, and it would be it was cutting everything in the heart. And I just remember it was almost too much for me to handle. But I remember appreciating him and his conviction at that time. A couple years later, I was with my father in Santa Cruz. And my father said, I heard Gaur Govinda Maharaj is coming to town. Do you think we should go and hear from him? He's going to be giving classes. He said, have you ever seen him before? I said, yeah. He said, what do you think? And I said, I think he's the real deal. I've never, haven't seen anyone else like him, not quite like him. I think he's the real deal. My father said, do you think we should go? And I said, sure, absolutely. But he picks on anyone in the audience and hammers them. So I recommend that you sit behind any very big person. So my father said, thanks. So we went to this program at Markandeya Prabhu's house. And my father sat behind Chiranjeev Prabhu. I think it was Chiranjeev, and I sat behind Kishori Prabhu. And we were kind of hiding there. And Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, we were at the house of Markandeya Prabhu, and he just was hammering him very strongly, talking about, you're happy in this material world, eating stool. Eating the stool of this material world. Why not endeavoring for bhakti? So very strong, very powerful, very convicted. And I credit Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj for, we would say directly and indirectly, bringing me to my Gurudev. It was in 1996, literally just after he departed from our vision in this world, that his one follower, this boy named Krishnadas, gave me that book, Shri Guru Vandana, of the lecture, the Guru Tattva lecture of Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And then that boy arranged for us to go and meet Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj and Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And so directly and indirectly, by his mercy, I was able to go and meet my Gurudev and Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj. And I do credit him with that, and for cracking my stone-like shell a little bit to somehow get even one particle, one molecule of some Guru Tattva in there, so that I might be able to appreciate the Vaishnavas, appreciate Srila Gurudev and Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj. So Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, of course, was no ordinary person. He was born in a very esteemed Vaishnava family, in a lineage of Kirtaniyas. They're from Gadaigiri. And so it was a Giri line of Kirtaniyas. And so from his birth, they were always engaged in Kirtan from a very young age. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he learned Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. When he was not so much older, he also studied all of the Upanishads, the Puranas, and yes, he studied all of these scriptures, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he had such a natural inclination toward bhakti from his very birth. And all of his family were Vaishnavas. His family deity was Gopalju, who had come from Vrindavan initially, and he credits Gopalju for the inspiration which led him on the path of searching for Sri Guru, for pure bhakti. So Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, from the beginning, was fully dedicated in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the association of Vaishnavas, always absorbed in Kirtan and Harikatha, and this was his attraction. Due to the societal situations at the time, it was required for him to go to school, and then at a certain point it was also required for him to become married. So he was married at a certain point. He had never met his wife before their marriage date. It was arranged marriage, and she had never met him. And he actually said, after having taken sannyas, he said, I got married, I passed stool 7 times and had 7 children. So he had 4 sons, 3 daughters. But this was the level of his attachment to family life. I passed stool 7 times and had 7 children. It means he did not enjoy anything. Only he did everything according to dharma, completely focusing his mind on Guru, Gauranga and Krishna. He was always seeking the shelter of any pure Vaishnava. When he went to school, he went to university because he had to maintain his family, but he had no time. So it is said that he studied at night. He also didn't have the money to do it, so he studied at night. And within 2 months, he passed all of the exams and graduated from university in 2nd place.
Wow.
Within 2 months.
Wow.
So Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj was no ordinary person. What job did he get? He was a teacher. Sanskrit teacher and other teacher. He was teaching so many subjects. He was brilliant. But what did he do with his time? He was also teaching his students about bhakti, something like Nimai Pandit. He could not help himself. And he knew from a very young age that at a certain point, I'm going to give up my family life and I'm going to take sannyas. Even the astrologers had all said so. It was already predicted. He knew it. And so even his, I want to say the word ex, when someone takes sannyas, technically they are dead from this world. They used to sign a death certificate for that person who would take sannyas. She actually claimed that she had a dream one night that he was with Krishna and that he was leaving home. She knew he was going to take sannyas. So Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj actually wanted to take sannyas. He wanted to leave everything behind in 1969, but it wasn't until 1974 that he was able to do so. So Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, he took only a kamandalu, means a little water pot. He put on saffron cloth and he went on his way. He had a Bhagavad Gita with him. And he left home and went traveling all over India, searching for his guru. And he met thousands and thousands of persons and stayed one night in every location, wanting to hear, staying in Gaudiya Mats and everything, wanting to hear about Krishna. But he knew what he was searching for. He had attraction for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He had attraction for the holy name. He had read in Shastra, Harer Nam, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastyeva, 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 Gatiranyata. That the only process in this age for attaining perfection is chanting the holy names of the Lord, and especially Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
And he wanted sannyas.
And also he wanted to receive sannyas. So he was searching for any qualified, bona fide guru who represented the essence of all of this. And he searched all over, from the southern tip of India all the way to the furthest north in the Himalayas. He went everywhere as a traveling mendicant. Yeah, he had dreadlocks and everything. So he was like also wild, and he was going from place to place, but he would preach to the people where he would stay. And especially he said that when he was in the north, there were so many gurus and teachers, but they wanted to maintain their Mayabad conceptions. And when he would preach from Shastra about the glories of Harinam, they would be like, we don't want you here, you should leave, you should leave. But what could he do? So he maintained searching for that truth. Where can I find Mahaprabhu? Where can I find Harinam, Hare Krishna Mahamantra? And also I want to receive sannyas. So he was looking for a bona fide Gurudev. He said he saved Vrindavan for his last and final location because he knew that is the dearest place of Krishna. So finally, he would end up in Vrindavan. So as he traveled from place to place, he learned all different kinds of conceptions and 100%?
Yeah.
Okay. He was searching for Vrindavan. Finally, when he came to Vrindavan, he at that time, they were just beginning construction of Krishna Balaram Mandir. So most of it was quite jungly. I mean, the road there, even when I came, was kind of the first time still a dirt road. What to speak of back then? It was all quite jungly. Loy Bazaar area, that, where the main temples were, that was something. But 1974, that was quite rustic back in the day. So Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, at that time, he had taken a different name. His birth name was Brajabandhu, and that means friend of Braj. But when he left home, he took the name, what is it? Gopal Anand, Gaur Gopal Anand. I don't even know if I have it in my notes.
I think it was Gaur Gopal Anand.
Gaur Gopal Anand or something like that. He took a different name so no one could find him. So when he came to Vrindavan, he was searching. He said he was staying in a different place every night, a different temple, any different mutt or anything, every night in a different location, and he was searching. Finally, he came to this area of Vrindavan where there were Western devotees. And he was like, Western devotees wearing tilak and shika. And they gave him a Back to Godhead magazine, BTG. And he was looking at the Back to Godhead, and he was like, what's going on? He opened it, and there he sees Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he's like, this is the place.
Did he see a picture of Srila Prabhupada?
He saw a picture, but he's like, I want to meet your guru. So he went to the place there. At that time, there was only a few mud huts, and then there was one small building where Srila Prabhupada was staying. And they had just began construction of Krishna Balaram Mandir. So he went and asked, can I meet your guru? Brahmananda Prabhu. And he was like, 1 minute. So he went to Srila Prabhupada, and at that time, Gaur Govinda Maharaj looked something like a Mayavad sannyasi, they said. So actually, he had some difficult time in different mutts because they thought he was a Mayavad sannyasi and they didn't want him to remain there. So he had come there and he wanted to meet the guru, and Brahmananda came. He asked, why do you want to meet him? He said, I'm searching for the truth. I'm searching for Guru. I'm searching for Krishna. I just want the blessings of the sadhu, he said. So Brahmananda went and saw Srila Prabhupada and said, there's one sadhu outside. And he said, I wasn't a sadhu. I was searching, but I looked like a sadhu because of my dress and everything. So Srila Prabhupada said, bring him in. And said, Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj said at that time, somehow miraculously, Brahmananda wasn't there. It was just him and Srila Prabhupada.
He said it was like super soul.
And yeah, he said it was like super soul met with his desires, with his necessity. And so Brahmananda had to go do something else. And Srila Prabhupada heard him speaking and said, oh, your Hindi is very nice. Can you translate my books? Like that, immediately.
He asked him the 3 questions.
That didn't come right away.
Oh.
First, Prabhupada offered him seva. Like, just immediately. And he actually ordered, give him Back to Godhead magazine and have him translate an article into Hindi. And then Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj told Prabhupada, I speak Hindi, I was a teacher, but also it's not my first language. My first language is Uriya, I'm from Orissa. And so Prabhupada wanted him to translate his book. He's like, you have some capability, do this. And one of the first things that Prabhupada said to him, because he was searching for something, have you taken sannyas? And he said, no, not yet. And Prabhupada said, I will give you sannyas. Just like that. He was like, my God, Paramatma knows my heart. He's responding through this form. This is my guru. Srila Prabhupada, within 2 months, this was unprecedented. Normally you had a 6-month waiting period for Harinam, then another year for Diksha. Within 2 months, gave Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj Harinam and Diksha. And a few months later, I think it was in the next Ram Nomi, he gave him sannyas. People were upset. They were concerned. Wait a second. He's the new boy.
How did the fire yagya go?
So so for his sannyas ceremony, Ram Navami, it was just the following year. He was the one who was the purohit. He was doing the yagya and arranging everything. And there was an extra seat there. And everyone was wondering, like, who's this extra seat for? Well, we know we're supposed to be getting sannyas, but what about this one? And even it was Tripurari Swami at the time. He was reflecting, because he was one of the ones who was receiving sannyas at that time. He was like, we all received our cloth and our mantras and everything then and there. But something happened. This person didn't receive it like us. It must have been done privately in Prabhupada's room, and then there was some formality outside. He recognized that there was some difference. So they're like, who's this seat for? And so as Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was doing the yagya and Prabhupada was there, at a certain point, he gets up and goes and sits in that seat. Subsequently, many people had a little bit of difficulty. Wait a second, this guy, he's the new boy. Why is he getting sannyas so quickly? I mean, within 2 months he gets Harinam and Diksha, and within a few months more he's getting sannyas. And Prabhupada said, he's not a new boy. You're all new boys. He's a devotee, he's Vaishnava from birth. And in fact, he told Brahmananda early on that Krishna sent him to help me. And right in the beginning, Prabhupada told him, you should translate my books, which Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj did. Almost every single one of Prabhupada's books, single-handedly, without computers or anything, from English into Uriya. And he also translated so much into Hindi. So
Prabhupada called him my son.
Afterward, I'll tell you. Sudevi is so excited, she also studied about Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj today. He's not a new boy, all of you are new boys. So they were a little bit concerned, but Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj's complete life, he was searching for Harinam, he was searching for Mahaprabhu, and he was searching for any guru who could gift that to him, and also sannyas. And upon his first meeting with Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada said, have you received sannyas? And he's like, no, not yet. I will give you sannyas. Just like that. He read his heart, he read his mind, and he answered his questions without him even needing to ask, although that was a deep desire within his heart. So it was miraculous. Prabhupada sent him actually, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was reflecting, I was reading it today, how Srila Prabhupada ordered, give him a room so that he can do translation work. The devotees didn't want to give him a room. They told him, you can stay at any outside place. So he was staying in one place and a different place every night. And it was difficult for him to maintain his translating work and having to shift from place to place. He said in the morning, early morning, he would go and bathe in Jamuna, then he would come to the temple for Mangalarti. And then, so after some time, Prabhupada asked, what's your situation? He explained it. And then Prabhupada again ordered, you give him a room. And he said that people were a bit jealous because they were there for a lot longer than him. They were much senior to him in terms of Diksha. And they had to live in mud huts and maybe squalor conditions, and this new boy was being given a room. And Prabhupada was like, I need this translation work to do. He had very instantaneously translated 2 paragraphs from English into Hindi and presented it to Prabhupada, who was so pleased with the quality of his erudition, his education, and how he was able to do this, that Prabhupada just wanted to immediately engage him in seva. And he said, Krishna has sent him here to help me. So this is no ordinary personality. Then Prabhupada ordered him after some time, you should go to Bhubaneswar. This was after some time. We have acquired 1 acre of land. Where did they acquire the 1 acre of land? Way out in the middle of the jungle, a wild jungle. A place where no one else wanted to go because there were dacoits, gundas, bad people, wild animals, tigers. It is said that there were like elephants also. There were snakes and scorpions and everything else. They acquired 1 acre in the middle of the jungle. And Srila Prabhupada knew it and could see it, that one day this will be the center of Bhubaneswar. Just like Vrindavan now, who would have known that ISKCON would be at the center? It's spreading both directions from there. Who would have known? Back in the day, it was everything on the inside of Radha, from Madan Mohan to Radha Gopinath to Govindaji. It was everything inside of that. But now, Vrindavan is spreading out. So Srila Prabhupada could foresee it. So Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj was living in that situation, subsisting somehow on very meager donations.
Didn't one of his students used to bring him on a bicycle?
One of his students used to bring him everywhere on the back of his bicycle.
Before he took sannyas, one of those students.
I don't remember all the details. But so he was there, staying in that place. Very, very dangerous place. He built himself a small mud hut. And from there, he was doing all the translation work. They had no electricity, no running water. It was a very difficult situation, but for the service of his Gurudev, he was willing to tolerate any inconvenience. As long as he was able to serve his Gurudev, then any difficulty which came was the same as any pleasure that would come. What is that bhajan? Atmani Vedan tua pade kori hoinu paramasuki. You know that prayer. So Srila, basically in that prayer it's saying, in service to you, happiness and suffering are the same thing. So in the service of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj was serving in every way. So he was translating and he was collecting a little bit at a time. Prabhupada also ordered him to make disciples. Now, someone said, do you have the recording? Where's the recording? Show me the proof that Prabhupada. He said, Are Baba, he told me in my ear. Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj said. And I can tell you, we have heard so many direct instructions from Gurudev where there was no recording. Which means that Gurudev gives so many instructions and maybe there aren't any recordings, but what makes it any less than what is recorded? It is as real, if not more, if it's recorded here. And in fact, we were recording something once on our, what was it that time? A BlackBerry. And when someone broke into our room at the Italy festival and stole the BlackBerry, well, gone. So the recording was gone, but Gurudev was telling us what kind of Thakurji, how beautiful they should be for the Los Angeles temple that he wanted us to manage and run at the time. He's like, oh, they should be marble and like this big and very beautiful. And if they're like, you know, too small, then people won't be as attracted. So he was giving so many different instructions to us. And those instructions were stolen, but it doesn't mean that he did not give them. So Srila Prabhupada told Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, personally, I want you to make disciples. This is the qualification of somebody who is really on that level. On the level to be able to receive the internal instructions of their Guru Maharaj and to be able to also transmit those cleanly, transparent via medium. So, by the order of Gurudev, he became Guru. Now, when Srila Prabhupada came, by the order of his Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada, he became Guru also. When Srila Prabhupada came to Bhubaneswar, his disciples had arranged for him to stay in some government housing because where Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj was staying was quite difficult. But Prabhupada said, no, I don't want to stay here. I want to stay with my son, Gaur Govinda. So for 17 days, none of the other devotees could handle it. None of the other devotees could handle it. But Prabhupada wanted to stay there with Gaur Govinda Maharaj, with my son, Gaur Govinda. Yeah, my son. That's very sweet, isn't it? So he stayed there for 17 days with him. And at that time, they had so many beautiful, sweet discussions. And Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj was receiving all of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, all of the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. We cannot imagine what kind of discussions were going on at that place. Later on, Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj would recall that at that time when I was there, Srila Prabhupada was there and he was translating or chanting, and I was sitting there praying for him to reveal his Swarup to me. Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj was telling one evening to Raghava Pandit, Jagadish Prabhu, and I can't remember the other, maybe Gokul. I think it was Gokul Prabhu. He was telling that I was there and I was praying to Srila Prabhupada, please reveal your Swarup to me. He said that for a long time I was thinking, oh, maybe he has not. Oh, he was praying to Krishna to reveal Prabhupada's Swarup. And he was thinking, somehow, maybe Krishna didn't hear my prayer. But then he said, but then he did. He heard my prayer. And then when Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj whenever he was questioned, whenever he would speak about Prabhupada or Prabhupada's Swarup, whenever anyone would mention anything, even Shuddhadvaiti Maharaj went to him. He wrote it publicly. He said, I went to him and said, well, they're saying Prabhupada is a cowherd boy. Gaura Govinda Maharaj was like, no, he is a gopi. He is a gopi. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj witnessed and received this darshan of Srila Prabhupada's Swarup, and this is confirmed by our Srila Gurudev and all of our Guru Varga. What is the nature of our Rupanuga Guru Varga? So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything here, because there's so many amazing glories. So after some time, Sudevi already told how Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, he was initiating and he was making disciples. But really, making disciples, what does that mean? It means very strongly instilling Krishna, giving transcendental knowledge and removing anarthas. And so he was quite strong, especially when he was on the Vyas asana. Very heavy, very strong, and also very loving and very enthusiastic. And all of his disciples say when he would get off of the Vyas asana, he was so sweet and soft and meek and humble. But his nature was like a lion. He would not ever compromise on Siddhanta. He said, we can tolerate anything, but we cannot tolerate compromise or change on Siddhanta. So many difficulties may be there. And that's when Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj started preaching very strongly. Well, he was always preaching strongly, but when he was traveling around the world, he was preaching Guru Tattva very strongly. Not that you just accept anything, but one should understand what is Guru. What is the qualification for Guru? What is Shri Guru Charana Padma? One who is endowed with Shri, one who is carrying the moods of Radharani's love and affection for Krishna. That is Shri Guru, not any ordinary person. One who is empowered by Shri Nityananda Prabhu, Shakti Avesh, that is Guru. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was preaching all of these conceptions very strongly and also helping so many devotees whose gurus had fallen down, one after another after another. I'm not talking about the devotees one after another, I'm talking about the gurus one after another. Some of these devotees, their gurus one after another, 3 or 4 of them had fallen down. And they were completely devastated. Completely devastated. What do you do? And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would give them hope. Don't lose hope. Why do you keep accepting a cheater? Because you are a cheater. If you are sincere and you pray to Krishna with tears in your eyes and your heart melting, nothing is impossible for Krishna. What is your requirement? Your sincerity and your tears. And the rest is up to Krishna. The rest is up to Krishna. That is Krishna's business to arrange for you the proper, necessary association. And if you are sincere, that association will manifest in front of you spontaneously and miraculously. And you will know because your heart will be speaking to you. He said that. You will know because your heart will be speaking to you directly. Krishna from within the heart will be speaking to you. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, he gave so much hope, and he was fighting against all kinds of apasiddhanta, even within the society, especially famous for nothing can fall from Vaikuntha. And this was a big point of contention. Big point of contention, because so many, based on some of the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, were convinced that, well, we have fallen from the eternal Leela and sport with Krishna. Oh, another cowherd boy just fell down. Oh, another gopi just fell down. Oh, I guess they don't like me. I'm not sweet enough. I guess Madhurashtakam is wrong. They would rather eat the sewage of the material world than love me. Imagine Krishna being in such a situation. It's not possible. This would create rasa abhas. It would create an incompatible situation. And so according to all revealed scriptures, Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj was able to see from different perspectives what is preached according to time, place, circumstance, and qualification. And so you see all of the different ideas given by Srila Prabhupada according to Kala, Desha, Patra, and qualification. Different levels for different people. Sometimes it's the moon on the branch logic. You tell something to a baby, you see the moon. Where? You see that ball on the branch. That's the moon. Oh. And then when he explains it to the next person, the moon is a ball on a branch. Right? But anyone who knows that the moon is not a ball on a branch. But that's what he needed at that time to get some kind of perspective. So Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj was showing that in order to reconcile so many apparently contradictory statements, what is required is anyone who is a Tattvadarshi, one, and to be able to refer to the Purva Acharyas, the previous Acharyas and their conclusions to bring some reconciliation. So there were so many different points of Tattva and Siddhanta that were being misunderstood. And from within the society, he was a very powerful voice for truth. And yet there was so much opposition, so much blocking him in his preaching. In fact, sometimes when some of the devotees were inspired to take initiation from him, like Raghava Pandit, the temple presidents wouldn't let him go. Nope, you have to stay here and do your service, Prabhu. But my heart is running there. Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj, I've never seen anything like him. I've never heard anything like him before. I need to serve him. I need to be with him. I need to hear from him. I need that mercy. Nope. Your service is to be here. So Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj made some kind of special arrangement that you leave that place and come to me immediately. And I will take care of you. I will give you nourishment. I will give you shelter. This kind of mercy he was giving. Even though it might have been considered taboo, he was very, very attractive and very popular. And what happens when someone becomes attractive and popular? Persons who are less attractive and less popular become a bit disgruntled. That's what our Gurudev said when I first asked him that question. Why are they telling us that we should not come and see you? He said, because when the devotees come to see me and when I tell Harikatha, they find it to be so sweet that they don't want to leave. He said, so they're somewhat sore. And I thought, it's true that people become a little envious or jealous. So Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj was gaining so much, I want to use traction, because of his attraction. He was preaching the truth in such an uncompromised, powerful way about everything. When I hear from my Gurudev and then I read from Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj or hear from him, I thought, oh my God, it's the same substance.
What did Gurudev say about embankment of separation?
Srila Gurudev said about embankment of separation. I don't understand how it is. I thought this was only in my heart. How it is that he entered so deep into my heart and was able to take this. Gurudev felt that this was only in his heart. But apparently Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj was seeing this as well. In other words, like our Gurudev said, he's a true Raganuga, Rupanuga, Vaishnava, a pure devotee of Krishna who was sent by Krishna. That was one of the last things I read before I came here. They had quoted Srila Gurudev in that pamphlet. Srila Gurudev had us, all of his own disciples, every single year for the appearance and disappearance of Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj, glorifying and worshipping Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj. Now, we don't see that in many institutions, do we? That an acharya of one institution is having you glorify and worship another acharya or guru of another society. But our guru was having us do just that. So Srila Guru Govinda, he was doing just that as well. And he would speak about him and he would glorify him and talk about how powerful and how strong he was. So I want to share one thing because we have so much more to speak about Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada and our Param Gurudev.
And Krishna and Radha.
Oh my God, it's unending. Srila Guru Govinda Maharaj spoke all of the tattvas of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita about Mahaprabhu's appearance in this world, why he came here, who Rupa Goswami is, what Rupa Anuga is, all of the essential teachings of Rupa Goswami and our Guru Varga, and of course Srila Prabhupada, his life and soul. His life and soul was to preach and to share and to serve Srila Prabhupada and his mission. And this is the natural heart's duty of any disciple. And of all disciples, he was a brilliant moon. Srila Prabhupada said, what is the use of so many twinkling stars? One moon is sufficient. I said that right, didn't I? What is the use of so many twinkling stars? One moon is sufficient. And they would all say the same thing. If even one person takes this seriously, then my mission is successful. So I remember in 1990, well, you were there in Singapore at the time. So it must have been 97. Because after Kartik, I went to Malaysia to sell oil paintings. And then 97, Srila Gurudev came again to Malaysia, Singapore. So Sudevi was there also in the house of Mr. Gupta on the 17th floor. I'm just placing it there. Srila Gurudev said, before I was satisfied just to be here, and any devotees that would come to me, I would give them help, any nourishment. But after so many devotees, disciples of Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, came to me weeping and crying. I haven't even spoken about Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj's departure, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. He said, so many came to me weeping and crying how he was being mistreated. He said, I could no longer sit still. I had to do something. In other words, when aparad is going on, Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj said, it is like they have an axe over my head and at any moment they could drop it. That's how much control they were trying to exercise over him.
They would stop his preaching.
He was detained in the airport for hours and hours and hours. He wasn't, because they were making difficulty for him how to travel and preach. And so he was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
On Guru Tattva they are wrong. On Maya
Tattva, on all tattvas. Guru Tattva wrong, Maya Tattva, Jeev Tattva, Bhakti. They're wrong on so many tattvas, he was saying. So he was like, there's an axe over my head and any moment they may drop it. What can I say? What can I say? I don't even know if I should remain. I will ask Gopal if I should stay or if I should go. This kind of difficulty he was enduring, trying to preach the truth under all circumstances and all situations. So our Gurudev said, after he departed, so many of his disciples came to me weeping. And I heard how he was being mistreated. He said, I could no longer sit still. I had to do something. So then I started traveling outside. Before Gurudev felt his presence there, it was sufficient. It was Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj who stated, when they asked him, what about, are you going to Vrindavan or Navadip? Why are you staying in Puri? He said, in Navadip, Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj is there. In Vrindavan, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj is there. And I'm here. So all the bases were covered. Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj said that. In fact, Raghava Pandit Prabhu told me that every time a new book of our Srila Gurudev, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, would come out, he would present it to Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj would read it from cover to cover. In the nighttime, from cover to cover. And he would come out in the morning and Raghava Pandit would be like, what do you think? Baba! That was amazing! So amazing! And he would glorify our Srila Gurudev. And they asked him, what do you think? Can we hear from Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj? And he told them, he said, if you have that opportunity, you must take it immediately. So Vaishnavas recognize Vaishnavas. And high caliber Vaishnavas recognize high caliber Vaishnavas. So Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj in 1996, on this lunar day, Tithi, departed from our vision in this world. Of course, we know that he had, through many different stages in his life, he had gone through one stage for 4 months. He was in a deep state of bhav. And that was confirmed by many stalwart acharyas, Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. He was like, he's in bhav. Don't disturb him, just take care of him. When Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj came out of that, after 4 months of being in such a state, first thing he said, how long was I out? How long was I gone for? But then they said he was looking at his body like this. What is this? What is this? He was quite upset and disturbed. What was he doing inside? We don't know, but he knows. And he's looking outside, what is this? Like that. And today, actually yesterday, by Janti Mala Didi, finally, after 25 years, felt competent to publish her memoirs of her time with Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. She was the last person. Her and Chandrika and Bhakti Rupa Prabhu were the last people to actually have a conversation with Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. They were in the room there with him. Many of his disciples were present. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was answering so many questions for them. This was in Mayapur at the time of the meetings there of Gaur Purnima time in 1996. So by Janti Mala Didi, Chandrika Didi, Bhakti Rupa Prabhu, and so many disciples were there, but he was speaking to them. And they were asking so many questions about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, about Krishna, Srimati Radhika, Krishna and Dwarka. What is the speciality of Mahaprabhu in Gambhir? And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was answering all of these questions. The devotees said in such a way that they had never heard like this before. How deep he was going. And at a certain point he was speaking about how when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when Jagannath came from the Jagannath temple to the Gundicha temple, at that time, how it was eye-to-eye union. I think it was regarding that.
It's when he comes back to Vrindavan.
When he comes back to Vrindavan from Dwarka. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was saying how Radha and Krishna were seeing each other as if for the first time. Eye-to-eye union. Eye-to-eye union. And he became so... And then, yes, no, he said, please forgive me, I cannot speak anymore. I cannot speak anymore. And then he was becoming a little bit faint. And then they left, they went, and then a few minutes later they heard something was going on. They said Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj were just saying, Nam Karo, Kirtam, chant the holy names, chant the holy names. And within a few minutes of that, he disappeared from this world. Speaking about the beautiful union, the eye-to-eye union of Radha and Krishna. So who can be like this? Every moment of his life engaged exclusively in service to his own Gurudev, tolerating all kinds of difficulties and fully always immersed in and absorbed in serving the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'm just remembering at this point when the Padayatra came through. He was also doing the Padayatra in Orissa, but when the Padayatra came through with Lokanath Swami, their deities of Gaur-Nitai had come with them. And they were staying there in the Bhubaneswar temple. When they wanted to take them, okay, it's time to continue with Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj said, you can't take them. They don't want to leave. And they're like, what do you mean they don't want to leave? They don't want to go. But they belong to the Padayatra. He said, what can I do? They don't want to leave. And then again, it was like this Gauridas Pandit, or how Gaur Kishori Das Babaji Maharaj was telling Saraswati Thakur, let me ask Mahaprabhu. Let me ask Mahaprabhu. Oh, I forgot to ask him. Let me ask him again. Okay, well, the answer is no. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would go in front of them, Gaur-Nitai, and speak with them. And then he would come back out. They don't want to go. What can I do? I can't let them go if they don't want to go. This is no ordinary personality. He's speaking with Gaur-Nitai. He's witnessing Radha and Krishna's eye-to-eye union. And his whole life is led in such a way. So definitely, he is this brilliant moon among many twinkling stars. This most brilliant disciple of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who gifted him all of his transcendental mercy and engaged him in his transcendental service. We cannot imagine the value that Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj gave to this world. Today I read that there's more than 10 to 15,000 hours of lectures. And he traveled from place to place to place, establishing the truth, establishing the glories of his Gurudev, and revealing through the teachings of Srila Prabhupada all of the teachings of the Goswamis and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So in his own right, he is a brilliant acharya. and someone who is worthy of all of our worship, our honor, our admiration, our respect, and our ears. And hopefully one day we might be able to receive the mercy of his beautiful, sweet, oh, what beautiful lotus eyes he had. Heart melting. And we might be able to receive the mercy of his stick. It's a picture of him when he was younger with Srila Prabhupada.
Beautiful, huh?
So he opened a crying school in Bhubaneswar. Mahaprabhu opened the original one, but Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj said, we are opening a crying school. So he wanted all of his disciples to become pure. He was removing millions of lifetimes of their anarthas and giving them inspiration for Krishna Bhakti Ras. Yes? Okay. So now the time is late. Oh my God. Almost 9 o'clock Vrindavan time. He was a lion, a lion, a lion. He roared very loudly for his Gurudev. And all I can say is, I'm so happy for Srila Prabhupada that he had such a lion like Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. And I'm so happy for all of us that such a lion manifested by the mercy, through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Tadiya Tirobhav Maha Mahotsav ki jai. On this day, the day of the anniversary of the disappearance of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj and the appearance of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, I pray to both of them that may they give us even one molecule, one atom of their mercy, so that we might develop some sincerity like they have in their dedication and service to their Gurudev, that we might develop this kind of conviction and this kind of service to our Gurudev. Never mind it starts in a seed form. One particle of dust is sufficient, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada said. One particle of dust from the lotus feet of my Gurudev is sufficient to deliver millions of people of this world. So I'm praying that they might mercifully give us each one particle of dust, so that might be sufficient to deliver us from our millions of lifetimes of nonsense and bring us into our service, bring us into sincerity, bring us into conviction and dedication in the lotus feet of our Gurudevs. Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So we're going to do a quick little Hare Krishna Kirtan and then a quick little darshan. Ooh. Maybe I'll just put it down here. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. जोर से बोलो. Jai Gurudev, 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 Gurudev. Jaya Gora Govinda Swami Gurudeva, Gora Govinda Swami Gurudeva, Gora Govinda Swami Gurudeva. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Bhakti Siddhanta Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Srila Prabhupada. Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Thank you all very much for being with us today and hanging out with us as long as you have. Sorry for keeping you so long. It was just too exciting of a day. And we will continue tomorrow with more on our Param Gurudev, and on our
Guru Varga.
Guru Varga, Sri Guru Maharaj. So, just thank you for being with us and giving us the opportunity to remember them, their teachings, their glories, and the teachings of our Gurudev and Guru Varga. We are indebted to each and every one of you for daily giving us the opportunity to do our Guru Seva, which for us is our life and soul. We cannot repay you for that. We look forward to being with all of you tomorrow. Dandavat Pranam. Dandavat Pranam. Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe. Shri Radha Vino Bihari Ju ki Jai. Shachinandana Gaura Hari ki Jai. Jivriyama Damani. Jivriyama Damani Astamanjana. Radhe Radhe.